The Great Emu War. Yes, I know it sounds like I've completely run out of ideas for this channel, but no, this is an actual event that happened in history. A war that was fought against Australians and emus. I can't believe I just said that. Hello! Welcome to Brain Spill, the laziest show on the internet. My name is Tank, and today we're talking about our Aussie mates down under. I just lost all my Australian audience, didn't I? Yes, we look back at historical moments and grow as a society because of our harrowing experiences. The Australians have played a big role in the development of the modern world and have had their fair share of combat experience over the years. They've been involved in such conflicts as the Boer War, the Boxer Rebellion, and of course the First and Second World Wars. But their greatest threat came in the form of giant, flightless birds. So yeah, we've got to somehow pick apart how this even started, and we've got to go back to the end of the First World War, where a bunch of Aussie vets were coming back home after the war. The Australian government needed to implement some form of programme to try and get veterans back into society after returning back from the war. And no, I don't think Australia has much need for trench warfare, so they decided to set up a programme in 1915 for the resettlement programme. This scheme was rolled out to over 5,000 ex-soldiers who would acquire plots of land so they could start farming with various crops and livestock. By 1920, 90,000 hectares were freed up for veterans to begin their own Farmville experiences and farm predominantly wheat. Now, the problem with this was a lot of veterans, as you might imagine, are probably more experienced with using a rifle or a tank rather than a farming piece of equipment. So a lot of people were quite inexperienced in the whole farming game. Worse than that, a lot of the land that the government handed out was not actually fertile land for farming, which made a lot of it that they handed out pretty unusable. This meant that farming yields were low, and as a result, the Great Depression hit Australia pretty badly. Subsidies were promised, but they never really came to the farmers, meaning that they were really struggling. With the odds stacked against them, surely nothing else could come along to ruin what remaining wheat they could muster up. Introducing emus. These large, furry, long-necked terrors can travel great distances at a speed of up to 40 miles per hour, which means that a roaming pack could, ransack your entire farm and run away with blistering speed once they'd had their fill. At this point, this was pretty much the last straw for many farmers, both figuratively and literally. They demanded that the government stepped in and did something to end their plight. So, they did. Which is surprising, because you would have thought that if these emus were a real problem, it seems though that they've been around all this time before, that they would have done something before, but who knows. Maybe with just more farmers and little way of stopping them, they needed extra help. I mean, clearly the emus were wanting all-out war with us humans, so we obliged. The Australian government heard the pleas of the farmers who couldn't handle the vast numbers of wheat-gobbling birds that were descending upon their farmland. Some had guns, but it wasn't really enough to deter the emu population. They decided that the only thing that could be done was, instead of, anything else they could have possibly tried, was send in the army. Yeah, the army still had a purpose in Australia, a little bit closer to home, but with an even greater enemy than what they fought in World War I. The army was called in to simply cull thousands of emus to reduce the population and stop the rampant pillaging of the wheat and farmland. The declaration of war was rung, and the 7th Heavy Battery of the Royal Australian Artillery was sent out on the 2nd of November 1932 to fight the enemy led by Major Meredith. Did I mention the emu is also their national bird? Just saying. Anyway, you'd assume that humanity would be able to outsmart the emu, be prepared enough with our war machines and mass array of weapons to tear down the emu hordes. Surely, Australia had the men and the firepower to take down this army of flightless birds. Well, if it was that easy, we wouldn't be making a brain spill video on it. Now, this is a question I actually have for you guys, and I hope someone can answer this in the comments, because I'm genuinely interested to find out the answer, and no, I couldn't be bothered to Google it. Do Australians eat emu for Christmas? Do they have a giant emu instead of a turkey? I mean, why not cook and eat the emus if they're that big? Big, tasty, flightless birds. The army first approached a group of about 50 birds in Campion and set up behind them, to only shoot and miss nearly all of them due to the fact that the birds spread out and ran away in fear. However, the first strike was made, and the war was on. 2 days later, they would try and ambush the emus again and found a huge group of over 1,000 of them. They set up a machine gun and started opening fire. They killed just about 10. So that's pretty poor odds when you say that you've got a machine gun shooting down a bunch of emus. What apparently happened was the machine gun jammed and the emus, realizing that they were getting shot at by a machine gun, ran away, which to my calculations leads to about a 99% failure rate. In fact, one of the recruits said the following about their failed assault. The emus have proved that they are not so stupid as they are usually considered to be. Each mob has its leader, always an enormous black plumed bird standing fully 6 feet high, who keeps watch while his fellows busy themselves with the wheat. At the first suspicious sign, he gives the signal, and dozens of heads stretch up out of the crop. A few birds will take fright, starting a headlong stampede for the scrub, the leader always remaining until his followers have reached safety. All I can say is don't underestimate the emus. This was their lands before, and technically the Aussies are invading on their land, so you've got to be careful around them, especially when you're standing in the way of their sweet, sweet crops. The next bright idea was to try and match the speed of the fleeing emus by employing moving trucks to then shoot at the birds. This just made aiming at the birds more difficult, and after chasing down a single emu, it got tangled in the vehicle's steering and veered the truck into a fence. Yes, things were not going well, and this entire saga just sounds like something out of a Monty Python sketch. When the question was raised if a medal would be struck for the conflict, Federal Labour parliamentarian A.E. Green said that if anything, it should be the emus being awarded for the medals because they had won every skirmish so far. Just to show how difficult their foe was, Major Meredith was even quoted as saying, "If we had a military division with the bullet carrying capacity of these birds, it would face any army in the world. They can face machine guns with the invulnerability of tanks." That just sounds like an excuse for a poor job, but over time they actually did get their act together and learn how to effectively take down the emus, with slowly but surely their culling becoming more and more effective. However, Major Meredith worked out that at the rate of ammo usage, it was taking approximately 10 machine gun rounds for each confirmed kill. The plug was pulled on this whole exercise after some 1,000 emus had been killed. I mean, that was only like a minute fraction of the emu population, but that was enough for the government to say, a job well done. And yeah, I mean, that doesn't really sound like a lot, but we do have to say that out of all the casualties in this war, 100% of the casualties were emus, so I guess they won? The government just decided to give the ammunition to the local farmers instead, which resulted in just over 57,000 emu lives being claimed in a 6-month period. A bit more effective than the military just going on an outback rampage with a machine gun. And you do have to bear in mind that a lot of these farmers were soldiers, so they know what they're doing, so just give them the weapons and let them do the job. Even after the initial 6-month period, the government even put in a bounty program to help cull even more emus, which helped even further. Now, for the people out there who are feeling quite sorry for these emus, let me just say that the emus in Australia are still alive and well today, and they are quite populous, meaning that there's still plenty of them about. But we have to reflect on these hard historical times to truly appreciate what we've been through to get to where we are today, and in particular, the Great Emu War. And if you only take one thing away from this video, it's that you don't forget about the Emu War, because if you forget, the emus will come for you, and when you least expect it, they're going to come and raid you for all of your wheat. And that's just a slippery slope, people. If we let the emus win, they'll take over the world, and I don't want to see an emu in the Oval Office anytime soon. If you liked the video, be sure to like and subscribe. If you want to be notified as soon as I upload my next video, be sure to hit the bell button. And if you've got any ideas for what topics you'd like me to discuss next, let me know down in the comments below. As always, sources used in the video will be in the description. Right, I'm going to go online and see if I can order myself an emu for Christmas. I mean, if the turkeys are selling out everywhere, then who knows, maybe an emu would be the next best thing. See you guys in the next video. Fantastic.